What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another episode of What is Wrong with Your Overwatch League team. Today's episode will feature the Boston Uprising since they've been on my mind quite a bit as of late, but some of you may be new to the series because it's been a while since I've done one of these, so let me explain quickly how it works. What I do is discuss a team that I have been thinking about lately due to them severely underperforming. What I try to do is address some of the issues that bring said team down and talk about ways in which they could potentially fix them and improve as a team moving forward. Season 2 for Boston has slowly but surely been spiraling out of control since the All-Star break ended, so I feel that this will make for a really good discussion. Also, let it be known that any team I address in the series will receive nothing but tough love. I'm not here to roast a team for losing a lot of games. At the end of the day, every esports team shares a very similar goal, and that of course is to win as many games as possible. And if a team is struggling to do this, then it's crucial that your team can figure out potential solutions to fix it. And that's what I plan to do with the Uprising today. Remember, Boston fans, it's all tough love here. All I'm trying to do is help out. Alright, with explanations out of the way, let's dive straight into things. But where do I even begin? Well, I suppose I should start by identifying how they've been doing since the end of Stage 2. So in my eyes, the Uprising have had a mess full of issues that are holding them back, and their record since the beginning of Stage 3 reflects upon this heavily. The Boston Uprising have won a single game after their decent 7-7 start to the year. That's a 1-9 record since June 7th. Think about that. In 2 months, they have just one win to their name. That is brutal. Only 2 teams in the league have been worse over the stretch of time. The Dallas Fuel are 1-10 and the Defiant are 1-12. Now obviously, that is not very good. If you're a bottom 3 team in the league, then you've got some serious problems on your hands. Now I will admit that in the 3 games they participated in this stage, they've gone up against some stiff competition, so that's part of the reason they're winless in Stage 4 as of right now, but even so, that doesn't explain why they struggled in Stage 3 at all, and plus, there's other issues that go beyond competition that help explain why they've been bad in Stage 4. So let's break it down here. What big time issues have been dragging the Boston Uprising downward? Well, thing number one that I wanted to address is Fusions. As much as I love this guy as a person, he's had a lot of underwhelming performances in the second half of the year. He obviously has been a key piece on Boston this whole year in terms of leadership and comms, but he's not getting it done with how he plays in game. This especially goes for Stage 4. His Orisa is pretty mediocre based off what I've seen, and his Ryan started to fall off back around Stage 3 as well in my opinion. It's gotten to the point where people believe that Boston should maybe try playing Axiom again. The guy only has 3 hours of stage time this year, and he's never gotten the opportunity to show off his Orisa, so perhaps the Uprising should play him to see how he does. And he doesn't even need to be the starter at first. They could try just subbing him in on maps here and there to experiment, and if he proves to be no better than Fusions, then just scrap the idea. But if you notice any sort of difference between the two, then maybe consider making Axiom the starter. I know that Fusions is practically unreplaceable when it comes to his shot calling and overall leadership, but what do you have to lose at this point? It's pretty much already too late for the Uprising to qualify for the play-in tournament since their record is so poor, so I don't see the harm in trying something different, because right now, you can't get much worse than what we've seen from Boston in Stage 4. And while we're on the topic of tanks, let's have a talk about RCK. At first, he seemed like he was going to be a solid fit on the Uprising for the sake of them wanting to involve more Sombra into their comps, but after those reverse sweeps they pulled off in Stage 2, he really didn't look like much of a difference maker anymore. His Sombra and his D.Va were kind of average for the most part, and it's only gotten worse as the season has progressed, and don't even get me started with how he's looked in the bunker meta this stage. I mean seriously, we're at the point where the Uprising were willing to play Blase on off-tank over him in their match against the Washington Justice. Don't get me wrong, Blase is a solid flex player, and I know he can play a good Roadhog, but playing somebody like Blase over RCK really limits what you can play since Blase doesn't have the same amount of experience on D.Va that RCK has. He definitely can play it if his team is in need of one, but how well he does is a different story. Now, I'm not saying that Blase on D.Va can't work, but it's very uncertain how effective he could actually be. I applaud Boston for trying something different when it's obvious that RCK is struggling, but I don't know if playing Blase on maps where you maybe want a lot of D.Va is the best idea. There are some maps where you can get away with mostly playing Hog, but he's not a hero you can use all the time. I'm starting to wonder if Boston is regretting the Note trade or even deciding not to sign another off-tank heading into Season 2. I know Note hasn't been that great in Stage 4 either so far, but if you're resorting to subbing out your off-tank for a DPS player, then chances are that you wish you had someone more reliable. Speaking of DPS players, I wanted to take a moment to discuss my displeasure at this position as well. I think that Color Hex and Blase had their moments this year, but overall they've lacked that consistency that their team needs, and it's kind of carried over into Stage 4 as well. Now, I don't think it's completely their fault since there are a lot of other issues with this team, but when your team is losing and are in need of a hero, somebody has to step up and inspire their team with clutch plays. And let's be honest, the Boston DPS could definitely do a little bit better of a job with this. We've seen players on bad teams at this position pop off and keep games close. Does Saya player from Season 1 and even a little bit this year ring a bell? I'm hoping Boston will continue to test out Stellar in the rotation like they did against the Justice over the weekend. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to make a difference, but changing things up could maybe move the Uprising in the right direction. Plus, Stellar is pretty good in my opinion. The Boston staff must have saw something in him if they were willing to sign him when he came out of retirement, am I right? So yeah, I'd like to see more results out of the Boston DPS. I don't care who's in the lineup, they have to find a way to do a little more to help their team in the games they play. I'm calling you out, Color Hacks, Blase, and Stellar. Try and be the difference makers. We all know what you're capable of, now it's time to crack down and execute. Okay, now let's transition into the elephant in the room that most people are blaming when it comes to why Boston is struggling. Time to talk about the support line, and more importantly, what they're doing at the flex support position. The decision to play Persia over AimGod is being seen by most as very questionable, especially when you consider that Persia has not played at the same level as AimGod has this entire year. It's practically been night and day between those two. It goes without saying that Boston has yet to win a game with Persia in the lineup. To put it into perspective, the Boston Uprising have an 0-7 record as of this recording while Persia is the starter at flex support. He has played one whole stage worth of games and he has yet to be part of a Boston win, and when AimGod is the starter for Boston, they have a record of 8-9. It's also worth mentioning that the only game that Boston has won in the second half of the year so far has come with AimGod in the lineup. It wasn't a pretty win since it came in reverse sweep fashion, but a W is a W at the end of the day, and Persia has yet to earn one of those. Trust me when I say that I don't believe Persia has been very good either, but at the same time, fully blaming him for Boston's shortcomings is foolish. I'm pretty sure he's not supposed to be the starter anyway right now. I'm assuming that Boston originally signed him as a raw prospect who would be a project for them. He would need some time to develop, I guess you could say. I don't think they really envisioned playing him that much this year, but Boston pretty much had no choice. After all, according to rumors, AimGod and Calyx were not getting along with one another. Also, from what I hear, AimGod is kind of toxic. If I had to take a guess, I would say that AimGod and the rest of the organization haven't been getting along so well, and it's gotten to the point where they can't reach an agreement with each other, so the Uprising management basically said, fine, if you don't want to cooperate and be a better teammate, then you're benched. Now keep in mind, the AimGod toxic thing is just a rumor. I'm not saying for certain that's the reason why he hasn't been playing, but it almost seems like the Dako situation, but without the flashy leaks and articles to back it up. I can't think of any other reasons why Boston would bench AimGod other than that it's because he's not getting along with his teammates and the organization in general. It couldn't be more obvious that he's a better player than Persia as it currently stands, and it's not just the gameplay and win-loss ratios that back it up. Look at the stats. AimGod is superior in every single general per 10-minute stat. He is far better with damage, eliminations, and deaths. His healing is a tiny bit better as well. Let's go a bit further though. Here's where Persia ranks in stats per 10 compared to the rest of the league. As you can see, he's 177 in damage, 30th in healing, 184 for final blows, 196 in eliminations, and 120th in deaths. Meanwhile, AimGod ranks 76 for damage, 11th in healing, 138 in final blows, 143 in eliminations, and 90th for deaths. That's a pretty substantial difference for every single category. As far as I'm concerned, AimGod is the better player in practically every way imaginable. The only thing that Persia is supposedly better with, it would seem, is being a good teammate. And again, that's likely why he's been playing. At the end of the day, regardless of how skillful the player is, you want somebody who is going to get along with everybody in the organization. You don't want somebody who is toxic or spreads negative vibes to anybody. Every sports organization wants a group of players who can spread positivity and get along with one another. Even if you are the best at what you do, if you can't be a good person and do nothing but drag the team's mental state downward, then you're no good. I don't care if you're the greatest Overwatch player of all time. It's a team game after all, and if you can't act like a good person who can coexist with others, then you don't deserve to be on stage. So if that's the reason why Boston isn't playing him, then I can't blame them at all. But now the question is, would there be any way in which AimGod would be happy to play while getting along with his teammates? Well, if him and Calyx don't do good together, then you could always try to play Alamau instead, but I feel like it can pretty much be assumed that AimGod doesn't really synergize well with him either, or he just doesn't like with playing Alamau in general. It's pretty evident that they aren't a great duo if they haven't been playing much on stage with one another this year. I'm pretty sure that most people don't like Calyx or just prefer Alamau over him, but at the end of the day, it's clear that the Uprising functioned better with Calyx in the lineup. If that wasn't true, then Alamau would be the one playing, would he not? And since Calyx doesn't mesh together with AimGod well, Boston had pretty much no choice but to start using Persia, even if he is a serious downgrade at the support position. Needless to say, Boston appears to be in a predicament when it comes to their support line. A change is desperately needed, but their hands are tied. Until they figure things out with Aim God, they're pretty much stuck with what they're running for the time being. If I'm the Uprising, I would try my best to maybe try experimenting with their support line. It's kind of like with the Fusion's Axiom thing. There really isn't much to lose at this point. Your playoff hopes are basically non-existent. Try some things out in practice and maybe even on stage. You're losing all your games pretty badly right now anyway. There's no harm in trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Plus, you never know. Maybe you discover a lineup that synergizes well with each other while putting you in a better position to win games. It could potentially make for a good way to build upon something heading into Season 3. It would seem that the Boston Uprising are once again dealing with some internal issues that are holding them back from their true potential. But what else is new? Something always keeps the organization from running smoothly. The drama just won't stop with those guys. I'm really not sure what Boston plans to do to at least win a couple more games before the season ends, but what I do know is that something needs to change right now or they could be joining the ever so exclusive 0-7 club. It's painfully obvious that they have some internal issues to work out, and hopefully they can resolve them all by the time Season 3 starts, or Boston could be in for yet another disappointing year. And with that being said, that's pretty much going to do it. Those are the reasons I believe there is something wrong with the Boston Uprising. What do you think is wrong with Boston? Make sure to let me know down in the comment section. And if you did enjoy this content and want to see more of it in the future, then be sure to like and subscribe. You can also further support me by following me on Twitter at ATP Overwatch and by joining my Discord through the link in the description. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.